Hey, hello, peoples. It's Carm Capriato, Town Hall Academy. Can you believe it, guys? Week 195 nonstop.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. 195 of these. Of course, 584 podcast episodes. When you add all that stuff up I've done, it's over 800. And we're still going strong. We seem not to lack with great ideas on the topics that we can share. And, when I toss up an idea of a coach's lab, 5 reasons why employees leave. I didn't. I had a lot of choices because there's a lot of passionate people that want to talk about our subject today. Well, good to have you here. The Aftermarket original weekly single subject forum. It's Carm Capriato, and I'll introduce my guests in just a sec. Hey, if you're out there with us, and please do us a favor. Hello, Bill. It's amazing how some of the peoples of this industry are always here with us. If you're on Facebook at all today, or even if you're watching the repurposed one, later in the weekend, give us a like, make a comment, check in with your city, and or share this. It's just one of the only ways we can get this out into the hands of the people that really need it. Hey, my sponsors, if it wasn't for my sponsors, we would not be here in week 195. Thank you to Shopware, and they want you to wow your customers while keeping your distance. Now, even while staying 6 feet apart, Shopware's innovative technology will help you move cars through safely and efficiently. Completely digital workflow allows customers to review, approve, and pay for repairs all in one place. Request a demo. How about this one? GetShopware.com/Carm. Got my own page over there. Hey, are you tired of your cookie cutter website? Is it bringing you new clients? I mean, think about that. Is it just the same as everyone else? Well, let our friends at Shop Marketing Pros create a website that's as unique as your shop on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Okay, who's with me here today as we're going to talk about why employees leave? Murray Voth is here, owner and principal trainer at RPM Training, supporting the independent service professional in that great white north of Canada. But you also do business in the U.S., right, Murray?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And now with Zoom and all of our technology, it's even easier.
Yeah, it's amazing. We should do an episode, guys, on. So when was the last time you traveled? And of course, that would be a non-episode. And but we're all living and surviving on more Zoom calls than we ever imagined. In fact, I think there's something called Zoom fatigue going on out there. Dave Schedin is with us from CompuTrek Automotive Management Systems, who offers coaching for the automotive service professional through experiential seminars. We've, by the way, just so that you know, Murray, Dan, and Dave, we've all done shows together. Please get those names, run them on my site, and listen to all the stuff that they've done. I mean, these are real professionals in the trade. Dan Taylor is with us, Senior Business Advisor at Transformers Institute. We've done 3 podcasts together on emotional intelligence. You owe yourself to listen to those 3. I'm a big fan of EQ. I've gone through seminars, and I was just honored to have Dan come on and help, because we need more of this than we know. The whole EQ side of our business, and I think it highly relates to what we're going to talk about today. Okay, I wrote a piece of paper and I said that you're here to either confirm or learn something about why employees quit. My thoughts were, let me see, are employees feeling engaged or appreciated? Is management not dealing with problem team members? Did you ever hear that story? Your people know who shouldn't be there, even if you don't. Just ask them. Or if you go to sleep every night knowing you have a problem, everyone else does too. It's just not your secret. Employees leave people. They don't leave companies. I believe you may cover that today. They have no growth. They see limited opportunities. They're not setting goals because you're not helping them to bring expectations into the job that they have in your business. Poor leadership's on my list. I hope you guys cover that. And also poor culture. And I think all of that lends itself to this. And you say, why would we have this negative meeting? Why employees leave? Because if you listen to this team talk, you're going to learn to spin that around and say, how do I keep my great people? Am I right? Wouldn't that be the ultimate
Yes,
goal here?
absolutely.
And no matter if I have just, 5 reasons, there's going to be a lot more. But that was just a marketing ploy to get people to hang out with us and say, I can handle 5. I can't handle 10, but I can handle 5 reasons. Murray, let's start out with you. Talk about that no one cares about their development in the business and why the responsibility of the owner is tantamount.
Well, I want to take a little tiny step back to a leadership phrase that I developed with a friend of mine who's an academic in this field. He lives in an ivory tower. His name is Bruce. He's a wonderful guy. And I translate his work for the rest of us to understand. And then I send it back to him and see if I said it correctly. And we have a phrase that we've created that says, good leaders provide hope and competence. Hope and competence. People want to get up in the morning and go be part of something that gives them hope for the future. If they're going to put in 8 hours today, it's not just going to contribute to their paycheck, it's going to contribute to the organization, to their future, to the rest. That's the hope part. And competence is we as human beings actually want to get better at what we do. Now, people have said to me, Murray, I've had bad apples, I've had challenges with people and stuff, and no, this person doesn't want to grow. And I said, well, it got kicked out of them either by their parents or by their school, because the example I give is all babies learn to walk. Do they ever give up? Have any of you ever seen one of your kids give up? No, they fell down 1,000 times and they still got up and they still learn how to walk. Aside from some physical disability that they might be born with, they learn to walk. They want to grow. They want to get better. So with that principle, people, when they come to work, they want to know not just did they contribute to their paycheck or even to the organization, they want to know if they're getting better in the eyes of their peers and in the eyes of the leader. So that means that how would they know if they're getting better unless you actually interact with them, ask them how they're feeling about it, and then help them get better and ask them, is there an area that you want to get better in? A quick example of that, I used to fly back in my young years, and I was having challenges with something called steep turns. Couldn't keep the nose of the plane up in the steep turn. I know there's probably lots of people watching that used to fly or do fly. And I had a new instructor that day. My other guy was off with a cold. And first thing Rick said to me was, Murray, what are you having challenges with? And I told him. And he said, show me. So we go up in the air and I show him how it's not working. He says, let me show you. Now that I know what you're doing, let me show you the trick. And it was the trim wheel to keep the nose up. And we were doing steep turns, 60-degree bank steep turns with our hands on our laps, right, in stable air. And you should have seen the smile on my face, right? Because somebody asked me, what are you having trouble with? Show me how you're doing it and let me show you the fix. And that was just powerful.
It's the V8 moment that you just described that we have, I think, often, but we're unwilling to go out and say we learned something new, or it was that impactful that it did change our lives. But I was just recently chatting with someone that said, when people realize what their weaknesses are and they go out and learn to fix it, it changes them immensely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't wait on me, guys, to contribute to what's going on here.
Along those lines, Murray, I think some of us have, just from a personal experience, we've challenged ourselves in all of those arenas as well. As Carm, when you said we have 5 points to go with, I'm glad it's Friday, because Monday I probably could have handled 10 points, but it's Friday at the end of the week. I need more RAM and that. But as we look at why employees leave, there's a lot of different reasons, and there's no hierarchy of the top 5 in that. But the employee I find the most difficult that quits is that employee that quit, but he shows up every week for a paycheck. And he's quit internally, and he's quit to his own personal development. And what I find the number one skill set most shop owners and managers don't have is exactly what Murray pointed out. We have the ability to motivate. We have the ability to draw the gold out of somebody. And do we want to? Or are we just in avoidance? Gosh, this guy's got a little bit of baggage with him. I don't want to take a chance of opening that bag even further. And so I'm not going to go after it. And so now we have fear running our business, right? Get this, if an owner or manager, and this is my own experience, this is my own testimony, if I don't want to go help somebody be a better version of themselves, at some level, I'm not being a better version of me. I don't want to go help myself be that. And so if I'm not taking myself on, I'm sure not going to take my people on. So the challenge is, if I got employees leaving, and I had it at Dave's Auto Repair when I was in a dealership, fixed operations manager, when people would leave, the first thing I did is, where did I, or where could have I have improved in that? Well, actually, the first couple of years I did was, where did I go wrong? What did I do bad? Because I was beating myself up. Later on, a little personal development. Okay, what could I have done better? And spun that a little bit different in that. But I think the challenge, Mary hit it right on the head, is people aren't challenged to be who they're created to be. And it could be that job doesn't fit that person's purpose on this planet. And it's funny, people say, well, was I put on here to be a technician or a service advisor? Well, I believe you're put on for the context of those jobs, and it just happens to be the technician or service advisor. That's just a mechanism to carry out your purpose. And so many of us, we have people I've seen technicians and advisors be in a shop for 10, 20, 30 years, and they are completely unfulfilled because they've settled. And I think that's another attribute. I think settling has its fingers into so many different venues of the owner's mindset. And the more the owner allows settling, the more their people have it. As goes the staff, as goes the leader, goes the staff.
Yeah, and my point, and Dan, I wanted to bring you in. You look in the mirror, the fault of that person who's been there for 30 years and is totally unengaged is totally the person in the mirror, the leader of the business.
I would agree. Yeah, you've got, which goes back to, this topic is so dynamic and diverse that we could probably go on 50 different rabbit trails here and not even close to scraping the issue at hand. So two things that I wanted to bring up, and I echo and would certainly agree with everything that Dave and Murray has said so far. One of them is a cultural issue, right? Do we have a culture of lifelong learners and constant improvement and professional development, which did come up. And as you know, and I shared with Dave and Murray prior to this, when you first shot me a note about this a month or so ago, Carm, I said, you know what? I have a lot of stuff in my head that I think are the reasons why. But I went outside of myself and went, you know what? I'm going to go do a survey. And I'm going to go reach out to all the folks that are in the Transformer family. We have some 100 shops or so that actually represent probably close to 300 total shops, because we do a lot with multi-shop owners. And so I got the initial batch came back. I had 21 owners that represented 54 shops. And then I had another batch of information come back that probably represented another actually, it was another 9 owners, which represented close to 70 shops. So,
by the way, Dan,
yes, sir.
Thank you for doing this. I mean, you're bringing a little science here to this solution. As much as we all, as you guys as coaches, really know this, you've experienced this, you've helped people with it. For you to do this survey for this show, I thank you.
I appreciate it. And then I shared it back with the group that participated. And one of the things was tied for number 2. And I literally had a couple hundred responses and had to boil it down to the 5 that you asked us to bring to the table. Although everybody on this panel agrees, there's literally dozens and dozens of them. And one of the things that I told them is let's focus on things we control, right? So Dave and Marie both hit on that. Things that we control as owners, as leaders, not the guy's wife got another job in another state and he had to move. We don't have any control over that, but we do have control over the day-to-day activities. And like Dave just mentioned, the guy or gal that's been there for 30 years and has just become complacent and has struggled and not moved, doesn't feel fulfilled. That's to some degree a cultural issue. Certainly a leader would want to continue to spawn that person on the continued growth or different career trajectories or paths. So that was one of the things I wanted to bring up right out of the gates. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I do have a story to share with this, I was coaching one-on-one with a guy, and we went about 6 months before the owner and I agreed that this probably wasn't going to work out. And I owned some of that, and probably the individual I was working with owned some of it. But they had gone through a multi-shop operation. They had gone through over 100 employees in 3 years. And the manager, the CEO, the integrator, the district manager, whatever title people have for this person said, man, we all these people are horrible. And I know both of these guys are experts in this arena. And I'm just going,
man.
so you won the lottery 100 times and hired the wrong person 100 times over. I want you to start running the lottery for me, because that is absolutely impossible to do. I package it in, and I know Murray had a great opening statement about hope and competency and things like that. I call it HR philosophy, right? I firmly believe, after decades of working with individuals, thousands of them now, people don't show up to work to do a bad job.
Yeah.
And so then it does completely revert over to, do we have an environment that's conducive for them growing and learning? Do we make the right hire? Dave brought up a great point, and I would elaborate a little bit more on that, and then I'm going to be quiet, is, there's a lot of things in life that you're probably made to do. And and you do end up gravitating towards some of those things. I mean, I have a natural inkling towards teaching. I'm very much wired towards industrial engineering processes and things like that. I love the EQ topic. I mean, there's things you end up gravitating towards in life that are occupation that fulfills the deep DNA of who you are. And so a guy that is a technician for 20 or 30 years, he's there because he was probably made to do something very similar to that. And then it is up to us to make sure the environment is conducive for that person to have fulfillment, feel good about what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for letting me share some opening comments.
Oh, that's awesome, Dan. I was going to say that listening to what you were saying, Dan, I was also thinking is, what does the owner bring to that conversation with their knowledge? So there is culture, there is all the things that you talked about, but there's literally, do you understand how people work? Yeah. So, and Carm, I know that you love books. So there's a book called Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck, Dwerck, Growth Mindset. And she talks about growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. She does say that we are born with a growth mindset and we somehow lose it in some cases. So if you as an owner have a growth mindset, chances are you're going to instinctively be working with people and looking for growth mindsets and work with that. If you have a fixed mindset yourself, you're probably at a wall right now already, because you yourself don't think you can improve. So that means nobody else can improve, right? The growth mindset person says that we can always find another better way of growing and doing that. I don't know where I got it from. I've been that way my whole life, reading books, learning for ways to get better, solving problems and stuff like that. So part of it is the mindset that you come to the conversation with, right? So if you as an owner have a fixed mindset, you might have to work on yourself first to a growth mindset so that you can actually bring the growth mindset to your folks. Just want to bring a little a story. Recently talking to an owner, again, coaching similar to Dan, a whole bunch of shops. And I asked him how he was doing, and he said, I feel like I'm running a daycare. And of course, we have all heard owners say that multiple times. And I said, well, what's the specific challenge today? He said, I got this guy that's taking forever to do this engine job. And I said, well, where did the problem start? He said, well, I can get an engine out in about 3 hours, like of that kind, right? And he's like 10 hours in and he still doesn't have it out. And I said to him, does he understand that there's a process to taking an engine out? And then the owner said, like, what do you mean? I said, well, when you take an engine out, do you have a way of approaching it? Well, I guess I must. I can get it done in 3 hours. I said, so you probably consistently approach it from this way. You start with the cooling tank, you start with this, you start with that. I said, how about that technician has never been taught that there's a process? He might start with one end of that engine to take it out, and then the next time he takes one, he starts at the other end. He doesn't understand that there's actually a way, I called it an approach to taking out an engine. And the owner's like, I guess I should teach him that. So that's kind of my story to do with that growth mindset, is the owner assumed that this technician, oh, by the way, any of my clients ever use the expression, you think they would know that? Gets a Zoom slap. You cannot say in one of my groups, you would think they would know that, right? Because you cannot assume that they know that. That instructor of mine did not assume that I knew steep turns. He asked me what the problem was. He said, show me. And there was just an awakening at that moment, right? When he could see what I was doing.
Murray, to add on to that, there's a great model. It's used obviously in teaching and adult learning, the competency stages, where you have an unconscious incompetent. They don't know what they don't know. Then they move over to being a conscious incompetent, where they start realizing, well, I guess I really don't know what I'm doing. It's good to know that there's some things I need to learn about whatever process or procedure or skill set they need to use. Then you move over to conscious competent, which sucks the energy out of you because you can do it, but it's all frontal lobe stuff where your brain's really got to process it. And then finally you get to unconscious competent, where you can do it without thinking. It's second nature. And I think one of the things that we constantly go over with folks is we are in so many cases an unconscious competent. We can do it. We don't think about it. And we bring on a new employee, or in your example of the guy pulling the motor, maybe he just didn't know what he didn't know, and you had to go back, and the owner says, I mean, he's just thinking this is just common sense, but it's not always common sense, and it's not always something that the employee understands how to do. And a lot of times they'll fit into one of those four quadrants. And then, of course, as we all know, we bounce around in them. We move all over the place in those four quadrants.
One quick little comment, Dave, I know you want to speak into it, is I've now used a phrase just last week. I said, is it common sense or common knowledge? Because a lot of people are using the term incorrectly when they say common sense.
Right.
No, common knowledge. I think we should separate those two phrases. Is it common sense or is it common knowledge? Common sense is the ability to critically think, to sort of look at the situation, analyze it. Common knowledge is, do they actually know that, right? Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's funny as you start talking about the subconscious, and I love the whole EQ, IQ, even SQ now, but the whole EQ being that automation of our subconscious running our lives, and I love how the brain works, and left and right and front and rear cortical, all the different things that are there. And statistics have showed that by the time a child the brain development, by the time they're 5 years old, 60 to 65% of their self-worth, belief in how they interact with authority, belief in self-worth, belief in a higher power, belief in everything, 65% is hardwired in, electrical neurons firing and going. By the time they're 8 years old, it's 80 to 85. By the time you're a teenager, and that depends on some people, that can be 10 or 11, and some people that can be 21 or 23. and I'm not talking in mental or emotional, that's just their body physicality. And in the teenage years, there's a chemical wash over the brain, and your synapses quit growing near as fast. And so what happens now is that you have an employee you hired that's got tape scripts and programs running that looks like behavior. And what we've done is we've said, well, that behavior is who they are. And we haven't got to the authentic self. So they have behaviors that showed up, like not reliable, not high work ethic, not a lot of the intangible mindsets and attitudes we want to have them that get in the way of them producing results. Okay, so now me as an owner manager, guess what I show up in that relationship with? All my tape scripts and programs, the childhood wounds, the father wound, and all the other things that happen. And now we don't have two people having a conversation. We have tape scripts and programs taking the other one out to lunch to tape scripts and programs. There are people are doing lunch, and the two authentic hearts, our minds, they're not even connecting. And really what it takes is that emotional intelligence to figure out yourself first, understand yourself at a higher level, will lead you into being the leader, so that you can do one of the most powerful things you can do in a relationship is to elevate communication. And the first step of communication is listening. If you cut off listening, you just now cut off communication. If you're listening with, okay, how am I going to respond? What am I going to do? And I know this is down a huge rabbit trail. I'll bring it full circle back here. One of the things that I think employees leave is because they're not heard. And they're not heard because we show up as managers, owners, and leaders with our own agenda, our own judgments. And I'm not talking about a critical spirit or a critical mindset. I'm talking about a subconscious understanding. Oh, they do this, I've made it mean that. And now I'm frustrated with my meeting has them in a box, and I can't seem to move forward. One of the things that I think is, Carm and I, we did an assessment with a panel, and one of the people on the panel, I'll give it just a short story, is he took over the business from his father and inherited this tech in the mix. And this tech was now producing an hour or so less a day, and there was conflict and all the rest of it. And so we did our unique job fit assessment. And I said, well, we need to run one on you and on the employee, or there's to make it, to see where the challenges are. And he goes, no, I don't want to do it on me. That already led me into some coaching things with him. I already knew what was going on. But then, so I said, okay, so we ran it on the employee, and I went over, gave him all the training on it, and showed him his how this guy is uniquely gifted and wired and created. And we went over all that. I stepped away. I ended up in Murray's neck of the woods in Canada, in Toronto area, for about 6 months. I came back and I talked to him, and I said, hey, just wanted to follow up with that assessment, and and how how's it going? He goes, man, you're not going to believe this. This employee, after taking that assessment, this employee is producing an hour more, and he's so much easier to work with. And I go, well, did you show him the assessment? He goes, well, no. I said, Mark, who changed? And it was that awareness. It was taking judgments off of somebody using a tool, and whether it's a DISC or our assessment, you have a tool to find out who they are. But that only works if your intention is to really get to know your people, connect with your people. They're not just a mechanism in your hand. And somebody wrote here that people leave their boss before they leave a job. And that's so true. And I'm going to suggest, take the boss hat off, put on the relationship, connect with that person. There's still a hierarchy, subordinate, manager. I get all that. But if you're not caring for that individual, they sense that. They may or may not hear what you tell them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I know both of you would love to comment on that, but let me just give another high five out to our sponsors. Does your social media truly represent your shop, or is it just plain old vanilla generic posts? Well, it doesn't have to be that way. The experts at Shop Marketing Pros listen and create social content that connects you to your community on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. And do you know what is as easy as 1, 2, 3? Well, Shopware's shop management system allows customers to review, approve, and pay for repairs all in one place. Keep your staff and your customers safe while maintaining profits and keeping your customers happy. Learn more at getshopware.com/Carm. Good stuff, guys. I'm off the charts on this. Dan Murray, do you have anything to reply to Dave? And if not, I want to go in a little slightly different direction.
That would be awesome. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dan, what I would like to do is I want you to really cover in brief the 5 points that your team came up with, because you did the scientific survey for us. But one of them was culture, a poor culture. And so I have a question to everybody, but Dan, I want you to go over your list so we'll figure out how to do all this. If the culture is poor in the business, does it mean so are the people? Because they hang around and they stay?
There's a nice big hand grenade in the middle of the conversation. Thank you, Carm. Well, we often ask ourselves, I mean, I've been journeying with Greg, who obviously owns 5 shops for the last 14 or so years. And we've always tried to reflect, right? And that's part of the EQ process, is reflect. And what did you learn? And I think Murray and Dave both brought that up. So when an employee leaves, right, what part of that did we own? And did we contaminate them, or did they come that way, right? And both guys talked a little bit about that pre-packaging, and then of course you're running it through your filters, and things get pretty skewed very quickly. I guess I would say right out of the gates that folks will typically conform to a culture. They'll it's like an attitude. They'll grasp onto it. So the shops that I've been in that have unbelievable cultures, they also protect themselves when somebody gets in there and starts contaminating it. And and sometimes you can move people up. I mean, there's folks that come, unfortunately, and this is one of the things that makes me most sad in our industry, is that folks don't know any better, so they've been in a very harmful environment from a relationship environment, like Dave just mentioned, where they've been getting beat up, belittled, and all those things, and then all of a sudden they're in a healthy environment. They don't know what to do with it, and they end up sabotaging themselves because it feels so uncomfortable. So I'll let the panel jump on that one, because that's a huge one right there in itself, as far as what happens when you have someone come into either a healthy or unhealthy environment. What happens with that person once they get there?
Well, my whole career was in service stations, so operating shops, gasoline stations, convenience stores. So people have asked me, how many gas jockeys did I raise? And I wish I would have kept track. My wife says we raised about 250 teenagers in our career. And I distinctly remember one young fella came from a very troubled background. And he was self-sabotaging. He loved the technicians. He loved the place. But he began to create drama and stuff. And the techs were saying, because the gas jockeys would help clean the shop, there was some overlap in terms of roles. They picked up and delivered customers' cars and stuff. So I took the kid aside and I said to him, I know your life is troubled, but do you feel safe here? He said, yeah. I said, do you like, Earl? Do you like Ryan? I said, yeah, I really like, I want to be like them. I said, well, your behavior right now is jeopardizing that. I don't know if you've seen that. I said, so if you feel safe here with all of us, I said, then don't screw it up. I said, I understand when you go home, it's messy and scary. And I says, if you need some help, we'll find you some resources. I said, but please do not mess this up here. And he listened, right? So I had a hard talk about it's safe here. But if I could just spend a couple of minutes on this culture topic, leadership topic, and guys like Dan and Dave and Carmen and I, we will sit and talk about this stuff for hours. We just love this stuff, right? Yep. And some of our clients, shop owners, they're got dyslexia, ADD, they're kinesthetic learners. They bring all this stuff. They're like, guys, will you just already stop talking about that? That it's hurting my head already. Can you give me a silver bullet? And of course, we don't have any silver bullets, right? But one of the things that I'm really working with my clients with is what we've termed a toolbox meeting. I forget who we grabbed that from. Somebody in the industry gave me the name. But the thing with my friend Bruce that I work on, he's again an academic in the leadership field. He said, when a person stands in front of a group and speaks, they are automatically seen as a leader by the group. It's a socio-cultural anthropological fact that if you stand in front and you're the one talking, everybody begins to look at you and you are the leader. I said, so when you as an owner, if you want to start your first steps of leadership is somewhere in the morning, before you start, right after you start, before our morning coffee break, have a 5 to 7 minute meeting. And I said, the topic doesn't matter. The fact that everybody's there doesn't matter, because what holds people up is well, that tech's on a test drive and that advisor's on the phone, and have the meeting at 8:07 every day, regardless of who's there, because you have now put yourself in front of the group. And then the person who's on the test drive is going to come back and say, hey, what did you guys talk about? What was the topic? Right? Or the advisor is going to get off the phone and say, what did you guys talk about? What you're doing is you're using peer pressure in a positive way. Let the tribe run themselves. You stand up there, speak to the tribe, and then they will circle back to each other and find out what was talked about. But back to Dave's comment about listening, is the 3 topics that I tell the owner to bring up is, hey, technicians, any current challenges in the shop today? What's going on? Oh, you got that Jag over there? Okay, you leave Carm alone because he's doing electrical in a Jaguar, right? Or, hey, advisors, what's going on in the front today? Oh, Mrs. Smith with her 7 golden retrievers is going to be today. You know what? Let's leave Jennifer alone, because Jennifer is going to be being relational with Mrs. Golden Retriever for an hour, right? And then you say, guys, anything else you need? How's the equipment, parts, supplies? How's the software, everything working? How's the Wi-Fi today, right? You've checked in with each of the segments of the business, checked in for their tools, and you say, high five, let's go, right? And guys, this is revolutionizing shops. It's simple. It takes practice. Owners feel awkward at first because they're not used to being that person up front. They tremble to be in front of the group. But I tell you, the guy with the engine challenge, 2.5 weeks now, he says, finally, he says, the technicians were mumbling and they were, what are we doing in this meeting? This is stupid, whatever. He says, 2.5 weeks later, they are now coming with answers to this meeting. He said it took him almost 3 weeks to get the culture beginning to shift, that yes, he does want to hear from them. Yes, he does want to hear about their challenges. that are going on today, and that shift is being happening in there, right? So I just wanted to give everybody a little tool to take all this great concept that we're talking about and bring it down to a little tool you can take today.
Empathetic. He did say, he just described, Dave, empathetic listening, and you can listen, but if you don't record and you don't do the things that you're being asked, then it's just a BS meeting.
You know, it's funny when you set culture, so many shop owners, they read these books, they go to workshop and they study up on culture, what it is. And so they made this culture declaration, but their actions don't match it. And so if you're going to create a culture shift, number one, you got to shift in here before you show up in the meeting. Two things I give as practical tools is everybody that comes in to your location and you hire, I don't care if they're sweeping floors or they're the next owner, whoever that is, at some level, you want to set the culture in the hiring onboarding process. Hey, I'm great. You've been a technician for so long and you've done so much training. Great. So what's the last thing you did to become a better you? Not just your career and better understanding of automotive and diagnosing and all the rest of that, but what did you do? What have you done recently to improve you in character traits? What's a character trait what are the top 3 character traits that you feel make you a master at this job or excellent at this job? Great. What are the 3 character traits that you find, gosh, if I just had more of this, that I could do so much more? What are those character traits? And then journey with them on that if you bring them on board, or even your own staff. What are those character traits? How can I walk with you to help develop that? You know, the morning meeting, Murray, you've said it. If you don't have your daily morning meeting, you are cutting off communication. Period. It's not just a once a week, a daily. It's the toolbox meeting, and I've heard that term before. I'm going to add an extra tool for that, because we're about us as coaches, and you know, my intentionality with my coaching is not necessarily that they have higher profits or smoother running business. That's a goal, but it's not about that goal. My goal is at the end of the training, they're a better individual. Their team are better individuals. They're elevated. They're a better bankable me, as I call it, for themselves. So one of the things we do when we coach our team meetings is we say, we have a word of the day. What's the quality that we as a team are stepping into? And I've heard honor. I've heard focus. I've heard urgency. All these terms and qualities that they've been somewhere esoterical land, you know, but they're never brought to the cognitive out. This is their focus. And then they take a little miniature whiteboard, put it by the door. Everybody walks in and out, the technicians in and out, advisors in and out, and they have Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, and they write their word of the day. And so the person given the word that day, when they're done with the word, they don't give a sermon on it. They just give the word, maybe 2 to 3 sentences, 30 seconds, maybe a minute max, of why that word is important. And they feel the team could use this word, not directed at an individual, but as a whole. And then when they get done, they go, okay, Bill, you've got tomorrow's word. And so it's this random, and they rotate around. So everybody has a voice. And I'm going to suggest that listen to your service porters, your general service guys, the younger generation. They have some pretty powerful words that I would have never thought that was in their focus. That might be my own judgment on some of the younger generation, but it's amazing. So empower your culture by doing the things. Show up and say, okay, it's my turn to give the word of the day. Start that. Give it to somebody else.
You know what I just heard? I heard values coming out. And it's amazing, you know, vision, mission, values that a company needs to have. What are our values? And it almost sounds like the word of the day could help develop those values based on the heart and the soul of the team. Craig O'Neill says Toastmasters will help you feel comfortable getting in front of your team and speaking. I know. And I did a great episode with Craig and Chris Cloutier on Toastmasters, probably within the last, Craig, maybe 5 weeks. And so if you need a booster of motivation, go listen to that episode on Toastmasters. Hey guys, totally love where this thing is going. Contactless service today, right now, is key to keeping your bays full while remaining 6 feet apart, because we're not out of the pandemic yet. Shopware's completely digital workflow will wow your customers and keep your profits up Tara from Topol Service Center said, thank God for this amazing cloud-based software during this difficult time. Thank you, Carolyn, and hashtag Team Shopware. Book a demo at getshopware.com/Carm. And is your marketing company sharing the same vanilla social media posts for you that they do now with every other shop? Well, that's not how Shop Marketing Pros does it. They believe each shop is unique with its own story. Contact them today. They're a great boutique marketing company. They're small and they care. On the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Dan, I promised that you would go over your list, and that was about a half hour ago.
Well, these guys are rock stars. I mean, I want them to coach me. Guys, I'm going to reach out, and I'm going to get on. You guys can coach me. You're doing an awesome job.
I got to tell you, this has gone to great places. And so let me apologize to my audience that you are not walking away with those 5 things you came here for.
Well, and a lot of them absolutely fall under what we've already talked about. So let me get in order. This was just our feedback, so it wasn't completely, but it certainly gives us a base. Unclear and limited opportunities for advancement and career satisfaction. And as we move into the next series of generational stuff, I do want to share with everybody, this book is an awesome book as a general great read for the millennials. And 75% of our workforce in the next couple of years is going to be millennials. And I love millennials. They have some unbelievably great attributes, but they need to know where they're going in their career. So it's really critically important.
Dan, let me stop you for a moment. Murray gave us a book, Growth Mindset. You've given us a book, Why Size Your Business. I have a books page on the website. These books will be there. Any books we ever talk about on the podcast over all the years are listed there. So don't hesitate to go to the books page. Go ahead, Dan.
Awesome. We just alluded to this, right? Values alignment, and what that was a top reason under poor leadership was, and I think Dave mentioned, if you show up and profess one thing, but your behavior, your attitude, and everything else shows everybody something else, then that's not lined up. I mean, and people want to follow people that they know exactly where they stand. We talked a lot about the culture. That was a huge thing. That was tied for poor leadership. Lack of recognition and appreciation. I want to come back to that because I think that's a huge thing we can emphasize as a cohort here that will really make an impact. It's take the tool with you today that will work wonders for your group. And then the last thing was unclear and unmet expectations. And some of that fell into onboarding, lack of vision, and we talked about the mission and culture stuff. And then, unrealistic marketing, people, we have very bold employees right now that will walk in and say, I need to be making $40 an hour because Joe over there makes $40 an hour. And I know I've only been in the industry for 3 years, but I'm doing the same work. And so we've got some new challenges out there, but let me go back, if I could please, to lack of recognition and appreciation. There was two things, and I'll add a third one on here. Energy and time spent on underperforming team members. That sucks the energy out of you, giving energy in a positive way to those that are doing a great job for you. And then needs, wants, and opinions are not being heard by leadership. And I think Murray mentioned earlier, or Dave did, right? These words are they really are sharp people. We have some unbelievable employees. Listen to what they have in their opinions. But the one I want to focus on that is a big takeaway for today is affirmations. Be specific and sincere with a compliment. They're free, and the energy you can get from an affirmation to another human being is unbelievable. It energizes them for days on end, and it's free. And for some reason, we don't want to give them out like they're candy or they're $100 bills from Dumb and Dumber. I would encourage everyone, go out and be sincere and specific with encouragement and affirmations from your employees. They're doing a lot of good stuff. Quit catching them doing wrong stuff and catching them doing right stuff, which is 99.5% of what they do every day.
Yeah. Walking to the back when you get a phone call from a client saying thank you for how well something's running, a positive review on a social media platform saying thank you, positive. Don't wait to go reward that person. The minute you find out about it as an owner, you go find that employee and say, hey, we got a 5-star on that one. Thank you, Susan. That was a great job on that truck, right? Like, we have to remember to build that habit of the minute a positive hits the company, it flows to the people that did work. Yeah.
And it's more than just posted up on a bulletin board, without saying anything and commenting on it. If you don't put a narrative behind it, your energy behind it, it's a piece of paper on a wall. Okay, well, that's good. It's not. One of the things, Dan, I so agree with you. It's so free to give a compliment, affirmation to somebody, but some people are challenged as owners and managers. A lot of them came out of technician mindset, and they're still in that technician mindset. They haven't turned on leader, manager, entrepreneurial mindset like the E-Myth talks about. A lot of shops now are using assessments. We have a unique job fit one. Inside of every assessment, I don't care if it's a quadrant, which is more personality, not behavior, but inside of all of those, there are qualities that they list that are so positive. If you don't know what to say, go read an assessment on somebody and go, oh, wow, they're very gifted at learning. They're very gifted at decision making. That, wow, they have a good pace. Wow, they have a good assertiveness. Wow, they have good leadership. And use the tools that are in the industry that are really pennies on the dollar for the result that you get out. Amazon did a study. American Express did a study about the best investment on this planet. It wasn't stocks, property, real estate. It wasn't businesses. It wasn't franchising. The most highest return on investment was personal development. And when you have personal development yourself and invade that into your culture, into your people, you'd be amazed at what your team will create when you get out of the way of the greatness that's already in them. You want to tap into that greatness and not look for where they're broken, because we're tech guys. We're fix-it guys, which means we don't go look at what's running right. We're always focused on what's broken, and we carry that into relationships. And I know it doesn't work. I've tried to master that, and I haven't made it work yet.
Unbelievable, guys. Is every Town Hall Academy seems to go places we never expected because the smarts and the energy that the guests bring. The topic today is the Coaches Lab, 5 reasons why employees leave. I think I should have titled this "Prevent Them from Leaving." Okay, prevent them from leaving. Yes. Wow. By the way, Dave does talk a lot about assessments, and we did do an episode together on assessments. It was episode 572, and you guys have all been tremendous contributors to the podcasts, both Town Hall Academy, Remarkable Results Radio, for the benefit of lifting our great industry. I know we could go on for another hour. Your wisdom would probably fill 3 hours just by you guys telling stories on how it all relates to this. But let's try to draw this to an end. And let me give you each a last word. Dave, I'll start with you. Dan, I'll go to you second, and Murray last. And so, David, CompuTruck Automotive Management Systems, give us your final word, my friend.
I think we pretty much touched on most of it, but really, be a better you. Be authentic, be your true self. And if you don't know who that is, that's okay, because guess what? Everybody on this planet is still trying to figure out who they are, including those who've been on the journey for a while. I've just discovered more of who I am, but I also got a whole lot more to go. Be on that personal development journey for yourself and do it for your team. Be a better you, and you'll have a better business.
Yeah. Wow, fabulous. Thank you. Dan Taylor, Senior Business Advisor, Transformers Institute. We've done 3 episodes on emotional intelligence. They are required listening.
I appreciate that. And I facilitate a couple leadership groups, and it's a mandatory part of my workshop that I do on that because it's so fundamental. And I think Dave and Murray mentioned that. And I can tell just in dialogue with them, they absolutely, truly believe that is a great foundation for everybody. Grow yourself, right? Grow yourself. Leadership development is self-development. At the beginning of the day, that is exactly what it is. So I'd echo what Dave just said on that. And I would say control your controllables, right? There's a lot of things out of our control, but everything we gave you in that list of 5 that we had dialogue for the last 45 minutes plus are all things that we have impact on, that we can influence, we can encourage, we can make a difference, we can lean into it, and become something more than we are with our employees and help them. And Carm, I think you capped it off. I mean, we'll probably need to do another one of these on how do you retain, right? That's the key, retention, because these are all reasons why people potentially left, but it's looking in the rearview mirror, and that's hindsight 2020. So now that we know what the top reasons are, what can we do to address that, to stop future bleeding and losing really great quality people for reasons that didn't need to happen?
Awesome. Wow. So why are you here? You're here to confirm or to learn what you either do or don't know. Final words from Murray Voth, owner and principal trainer, RPM Training, supporting the independent service professional throughout North America. Murray?
Well, I just wanted to say that I hired myself a coach 2 years ago. I have a Brenda as my executive coach, so I have somebody working with me just to affirm that what Dan and Dave said about our own self-development, and I have been working with somebody there. What I wanted to bring up was, and I don't know quite how it was phrased, but you guys touched on this, and the Gallup company, the research company, does tons of work on this. It's fantastic stuff. And they say that 60% of North American workers do not have a clear expectation of what their job is. Mm-hmm. And hence they're discouraged because they have no clear. So they're hiding in closets looking at their phone because they don't know what their job is, right? And so I just want to leave a really practical story, if I can. Shop owner complaining about his helper, new kid who was helping balance the wheels after the changeovers in the winter season. And speaking of Great White North Carm, we've got 8 inches of snow out here all of a sudden this morning. I wasn't expecting. But anyways, so the owner said, they're supposed to clean them, right? And you clean the wheels so that when you're balancing them, the mud doesn't make the thing go off balance. Those of you that are techs would know this, right? So he walked by the kid and said, "What are you doing?" And the kid's like, "Well, I'm balancing the wheel." He says, "Yeah, but you didn't clean the wheel." Well, the kid said, "Well, it looks clean enough to me." Right? So the owner lost it. And but he had delegated the training of this process to the kid, to the technicians, right? So I said, "Calm down." I said, "Does the kid know why he's washing it?" And you know what he found out? The kid didn't know that he was cleaning it to get the mud off for the balancing. He was just told, "Wash them before you balance them." He thought it was making them pretty, not taking mud off so that the balance actually stayed. To me, that was just the most brilliant little story of clarifying expectations to get results. We have to ask the right questions. And when we delegate the training, we have to make sure that the people that we've delegated the training to have communicated the why. I'm washing the wheels.
Bingo, the why. Absolutely the why. And guys, I've been on this big kick for how lately too. And I, and in this particular case, I think you guys laid up some really good why and some really good how. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that, guys. Have a great weekend. Boy, this was just a tremendous episode. 5 reasons or tons more why employees leave or prevent them from leaving. Yeah, I love your idea. We should do this again on the how do we keep them, right? Okay, everybody. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right.